Ever think about the journey our food takes to get to our plates?
It's not something most people dwell on, that's for sure.
Right. But today's deep dive is all about an often overlooked career that's essential to that process.
We're talking about the people who get those groceries, those steaks, those Thanksgiving turkeys from farm to table.
Exactly. Live animal transporters. Now, when I hear that, I picture, I don't know, a gruff trucker hauling cattle across the plains.
It's an image many people have, but the reality is far more nuanced.
So it's more than just trucks and highways.
Oh, much more. It's a world of animal care, complex regulations, even cutting-edge technology.
We've got some really insightful resources we've been digging into, and let me tell you, becoming a live animal transporter is anything but straightforward.
Definitely not your average 9 to 5.
Ready to go beyond the surface.
Let's dive in.
So, when you picture a live animal transporter, what comes to mind? Besides, the gruff trucker thing.
Well, yes, driving IS a major part of it. And those distances can be significant, demanding long hours and careful route planning.
Right. I imagine even the routes themselves require specific considerations. You can't just take any old highway with livestock in tow.
You're absolutely right. You have to factor in things like rest stops, equipped to handle animals, terrain that won't cause undue stress.
Oh, and weather. Can't forget about weather.
Precisely. Even weather patterns could impact the animal's well-being.
Sounds like a constant logistical puzzle even before you get behind the wheel.
It's a delicate balancing act, for sure.
Hmm.
And all that is before you even factor in the most important aspect, the animals themselves.
Which is, I'm assuming, where things get really interesting.
Absolutely. A live animal transporter is responsible for their well-being at every stage of the journey.
It makes sense. We've got all those regulations about the humane treatment of animals. I can't imagine those don't come into play big time here.
Oh, absolutely. These aren't just goods being transported, they're living beings with specific needs.
So we're not talking about hauling furniture across state lines.
Not at all. The regulations governing this field are incredibly detailed, covering everything from ventilation and temperature control within the trailers
Makes sense. Got to keep those animals comfortable.
to feeding schedules, rest periods.
Wow, so it's really comprehensive.
It has to be.
Yeah.
We're talking about living creatures.
That's where I think most people, myself included, underestimate the complexity of this job.
Hmm.
It's one thing to know you need to give a dog water on a hot day, but to manage the needs of, say, a whole trailer full of, I don't know, pigs,
Now you're getting it.
that's a whole other level.
You're hitting on a crucial point. The type and number of animals being transported plays a huge role in the transporter's responsibilities.
And those responsibilities go way beyond just driving from point A to point B.
You could say that again?
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit. What are some of the less obvious tasks a live animal transporter has to handle?
Think of it this way. They're essentially mobile caretakers.
Mobile caretakers, I like that.
They need to be able to monitor animals for signs of stress or illness, administer basic first aid if necessary.
Oh, wow, so they need some medical training too.
Well, basic first aid at least. And they even have to make judgment calls on the fly in emergency situations.
It's a lot of pressure. You'd have to be incredibly observant, resourceful.
Quick thinking. That's key.
To handle those kinds of situations, absolutely.
Exactly. It's a career that requires a high level of empathy, quick thinking, and a deep understanding of animal behavior.
It makes you realize how crucial experience and training are in this field. You'd want someone who's not just a good driver, but also a skilled animal handler.
And as if that wasn't enough,
There's more.
remember those regulations we talked about? Those are constantly evolving, often varying from state to state or even internationally.
So not only do you need to be a skilled driver as ND, a caregiver,
Right.
but you also have to stay updated on a whole bunch of legal requirements. That's intense.
It certainly adds a layer of complexity.
Hmm.
But that's why this career can be so rewarding. It's challenging, demanding.
And requires a unique combination of skills.
Exactly. It's not for everyone, that's for sure.
Well, it's clear there's MUCH more to this job than meets the eye. So we've got the driving, the animal care, the regulations.
It's a lot to juggle.
It really is. But what about the actual day-to-day experience? Is it all long hauls and rest stops?
Well, that's the thing. It depends. The work can vary greatly depending on the type of transport company you work for and the species you specialize in.
That makes sense. Hauling show dogs across the country for a competition probably looks different from transporting livestock to a farm.
You got it. And that's what makes this career so fascinating.
It's got that variety.
It's incredibly diverse, with opportunities to specialize in specific areas that align with your interests and skills.
So you could really find your niche within this world.
Absolutely. And with the
Yeah.
growing demand, well, let's just say there's no shortage of opportunities for those with the right combination of skills and dedication.
Okay, so we've established that being a live animal transporter is no walk in the park.
Definitely not.
It's demanding, challenging, and comes with a whole lot of responsibility.
A lot.
But let's be honest, those are often the hallmarks of a truly rewarding career. And it's a career path that's only becoming more vital as the demand for these services continues to grow.
Speaking of demand,
Oh, right. You mentioned some intriguing trends shaping this industry. It's not your grandpa's farm anymore,
you
Ron.
got that right. There's a whole lot more to it than just loading up a truck and hitting the open road.
There's a whole lot more to it than just loading up a truck and hitting the open road.
There's a whole lot more to it than just loading up a truck and hitting the open road, you say.
You better believe it. This
Yeah.
industry's changing faster than ever. Well, I'm all ears. What kind of changes are we talking about?
It's fascinating, really. The industry is being shaped by many of the same forces we see elsewhere, but their impact is amplified when you're dealing with living cargo.
Living cargo, that's a good way to put it. So what kind of forces?
Take globalization, for example.
Globalization. Like, we're not just talking about local farms anymore.
Not at all. The routes are getting longer, the destinations more diverse. This means transporters need to be aware of international regulations, different cultural attitudes towards animal welfare,
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have even considered that.
even potential disease vectors they might encounter across borders.
That adds a whole new layer of complexity. I wouldn't have thought about the global aspect of this job.
It's becoming increasingly important. And then you have the rising consumer demand for ethically sourced products, including meat and livestock.
Right. People care more about where their food comes from and how animals are treated along the way.
Exactly. So it's not just about getting animals from point A to point B anymore. It's about doing it in a way that's demonstrably humane and transparent. This is where technology comes in, not as a replacement for good animal husbandry, but as a powerful tool to support it.
Okay, let's talk tech. You mentioned sensors and monitoring earlier. Paint me a picture of how this actually plays out during transport.
Imagine a transporter on a long haul with a trailer full of livestock. In the past, they'd have to rely on visual checks and their own instincts to assess the animal's well-being.
Right, makes sense.
Now, with sensors embedded throughout the trailer, they have real-time data on temperature, humidity, even the animal's heart rates and respiratory rates.
So they're basically like high-tech shepherds, getting constant feedback on their flock.
In a way, yes. And it's not just about reacting to problems, it's about anticipating them. If the temperature starts to rise in one part of the trailer, the driver can make adjustments before it becomes an issue.
Oh, that's smart.
They might slightly reroute to a cooler area or adjust the ventilation system. This proactive approach can significantly reduce stress on the animals and prevent potential health problems.
It sounds like this technology empowers transporters to be more responsive and make more informed decisions in real time.
Precisely. And it goes beyond just the driver. Some systems even relay data to a central monitoring station, where trained personnel can keep an eye on things and provide additional support if needed.
Wow, so there's like a whole network supporting these transports now. That's amazing.
It's becoming more common, definitely.
It's incredible to see how technology is transforming what was once a very traditional industry.
It really is.
But I imagine there are still those who believe in the old school ways of doing things, if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality.
Of course, there's always a balance to be struck between tradition and innovation. And in this field, there's no substitute for experience, intuition, and a deep understanding of animal behavior. Technology can enhance those skills, but it can't replace them.
It's about using these advancements responsibly and ethically, not just because they're shiny and new.
Exactly. It's about putting the animal's well-being at the forefront and using every tool at our disposal to ensure their safety and comfort. And that brings us back to the human element.
Because even with all the fancy gadgets, it ultimately comes down to the people behind the wheel, right?
Absolutely. A compassionate and experienced transporter will always be invaluable, no matter how advanced the technology becomes. They're the ones who can read the subtle cues, make judgment calls based on instinct and observation.
And really advocate for those animals in their care.
Exactly.
Speaking of advocating, I'm reminded of our earlier discussion about the emotional challenges of this job. We talked about tough decisions and the potential for stress. Can you elaborate it a bit more on the emotional toll it can take?
It's something anyone considering this career needs to be prepared for. Imagine this. You're on a tight schedule, you hit unexpected traffic, and the temperature in your trailer starts to climb despite your best efforts. You know the animals are at risk,
Oh man, that's stressful just thinking about it.
but you're miles from the nearest rest stop. Or perhaps you have an animal in distress, and you have to make a difficult call about whether to continue on to your destination or seek immediate veterinary care, potentially delaying the entire shipment.
These aren't easy scenarios to navigate, especially when you're responsible for the well-being of living creatures.
Exactly. It takes a certain kind of person to handle those situations with compassion, clarity, and decisiveness. You need to be able to stay calm under pressure, think critically,
And put the animal's needs first.
always, even when it's difficult or inconvenient.
It sounds like resilience and empathy are just as crucial as driving skills and knowledge of regulations in this line of work.
Without a doubt. This is a career that demands a lot from a person, physically, mentally, and emotionally.
It's clear that this job isn't just about clocking in and clocking out. It's about a deep-seated commitment to animal welfare.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Mm.
It's about finding fulfillment in knowing you're playing a vital role in a system that can be challenging, complex.
But ultimately essential.
Exactly.
So for those listening who are drawn to a career that requires compassion, adaptability, and let's be honest, the ability to think on your feet,
Quick thinking is key.
maybe this job is worth a closer look. But how does one even begin to navigate the path to becoming a live animal transporter? We'll unpack that right after this break. We've been on quite a journey today, exploring the ins and outs of a career as a live animal transporter. And let's face it, this isn't your typical office job.
You can say that again. It's a unique path, that's for sure.
So for those listening who are thinking, okay, this sounds incredible, but where do I even begin?
The million-dollar question.
This part's for you.
It's important to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all answer, but there are definitely some common threads, some tried-and-true steps that can set aspiring transporters on the right path.
Let's talk about those steps. Where does someone with zero experience but a whole lot of passion even begin?
I always recommend starting with self-assessment. This isn't about, ticking boxes on a checklist.
Right. It's got to be more than that.
Exactly. It's about taking a good, hard look at your own strengths, interests.
And weaknesses, let's be honest.
Yes, and yes, even your limitations. Are you comfortable with long hours and unpredictable schedules?
Not everyone is.
Right. Do you thrive in fast-paced environments where problem-solving is part of the daily routine?
It's about honesty, right? Being real with yourself about what you're willing to sign up for.
100%. This career path is demanding, both physically and emotionally. It's about having a genuine passion for animal welfare.
And that goes beyond just loving animals.
It does. It goes much deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's about advocating for their needs, even when it's tough.
So you've got the passion, the drive, the stomach for a little. Unpredictability. What's next?
Time to translate that passion into action.
I like it. Action.
And as we touched on earlier, hands-on experience is absolutely invaluable. Volunteering at animal shelters, rescue organizations, local farms.
You get those boots on the ground.
Exactly. These are all fantastic ways to get direct experience working with animals.
It's about getting your hands dirty, literally.
Exactly. And it's not just about the hands-on care. Pay attention to the logistics, the paperwork.
The not so glamorous stuff.
Exactly. The communication between staff. These are all aspects of the job that might not be glamorous, but they're essential to success as a transporter.
It's about understanding the whole ecosystem, not just the cuddly parts.
I like that analogy. Now, while you're gaining experience, start thinking about specializing. Do you have a knack for handling larger livestock?
Some people are just made for that.
Right. Or are you drawn to the meticulous care required for transporting, say, show animals?
So it's like choosing your adventure within the broader field of animal transport.
Precisely. The more specialized your skills and experience, the more competitive you'll be in the job market.
Okay, let's say you've put in the volunteer hours, maybe even landed a part-time gig at a stable. How do you take that experience and turn it into a paid career as a live animal transporter?
This is where networking becomes absolutely crucial. Attending industry events, connecting with transporters online, even reaching out to local transport companies for informational interviews.
Putting yourself out there.
Yes, these are all ways to get your foot in the door and learn from those already in the field.
It's about building relationships and learning from the best. Right.
Precisely. And remember, networking isn't just about asking for a job. It's about building a reputation as someone who is knowledgeable, passionate, and genuinely committed to this line of work.
So you're showcasing your enthusiasm and dedication, essentially making yourself memorable.
Exactly. And alongside networking, consider seeking out relevant certifications. Animal first aid and CPR, specialized handling techniques for specific species, even courses on transportation regulations.
Always learning.
Right, these all demonstrate a commitment to professional development that employers value.
It's about investing in yourself and showing that you're serious about building a career, not just hopping between gigs.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Eh.
And finally, remember the power of a well-crafted resume and cover letter.
Ah, yes, the necessary evils.
Well, think of them as your calling card. Highlight your relevant skills, quantify your accomplishments, and don't be afraid to showcase your passion for animal welfare.
Because ultimately, that passion is what will fuel you through the long hours, the unexpected challenges,
And there will be challenges.
and the immense rewards of this unique career path.
It's a tough job, but for the right person, incredibly rewarding.
Well said. It's been incredibly insightful to delve into this often overlooked career path. And it's clear that it takes a special kind of person to do this job well.
It really does.
But for those with the dedication and compassion to meet those demands, it's a career with the potential to make a real difference in the lives of animals every single day.
Every single day. And that's something to be proud of.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions.
And keep those hearts open.